Hey guys, welcome into this week's lecture. This week we're going to be talking about hurricanes. Of course, last week we talked a little bit about tornadoes. If you have not gotten in your paper regarding tornadoes, be sure to do that as soon as possible. You can email that to sblack@lsua.edu. And hopefully for future papers, I'll have a little Dropbox set up in Moodle. But at least for this time, just be sure to email me those as soon as you can. So like I said, this week we are going to be talking about hurricanes, something that we have to deal with on occasion here living in Louisiana. Also, just be of note, I will be uploading a PowerPoint as well as some notes to go along with this lecture a little bit later on. So everything will kind of be there together, and I'm going to kind of hop in between the two on my computer. So hurricanes, we'll go on and kind of get started with that. The word hurricane is actually a borrowed word. It actually comes from the Caribbean. It comes from an Indian word, hurricane, which was Hurican. And Hurricane was a Caribbean god of evil, which makes sense. Hurricanes bring a lot of winds, a lot of rains, a lot of storm surge, in general, some death and destruction. So you can kind of see why these Indians centuries ago kind of saw this as a god of evil. So Hurricane was their god of evil, and we just kind of adopted the word and modified it a little bit and became hurricane for us. So hurricane season, it runs June 1st to November 30th, but again, these are just kind of dates on a calendar. It's not just, hey, the tropical season wakes up on June 1st and goes, oh, it's time, we can have a storm system right now, or on November 30th, it's like, oh, we got to shut it down. We do have occasionally tropical storms that form in May. Sometimes we even have storms that last into December and even around the first of the year. We've only had that once, but it did happen. So again, those are just dates on the calendar, but June 1st to November 30th, the official start and the official end of hurricane season. However, the real peak of hurricane season, and you can see this in the PowerPoint, comes around September 10th. So we have a little bit of activity. That activity begins to ramp up significantly when we get into August, peak around September 10th, then kind of start to go back down. There's another little peak around the mid-portion of October, and then diminish as we get on into the winter months. The reason why the peak is a little bit after summer, or the prime part of summer, even though it's still hot on land here for us in Louisiana in September, the rest of the country is starting to cool down, and you're starting to see summer kind of relinquish its grip on the country. The reason why hurricane season has a peak a little bit after the main heat of summer in July and August is because it takes a lot longer for water to heat and cool than it does for land. It's just a thermodynamic thing. It just takes longer to heat and to cool. So therefore, even though it's kind of like, think about it, if you've had a couple of very warm days, maybe in the mid 80s, almost 90, and you go to jump in a pool, and the pool's a little bit colder than what you think it's going to be. It's kind of the same thing, but just think on a much broader scale in the ocean. Think about how much water is in the ocean. That's how much longer it just takes to really, really heat up. And when we talk about the ingredients that hurricane needs to develop, really the first and foremost is very, very warm water to a very, very deep depth. And so really that doesn't take place until June, August, and then early September. So that's really why the peak of hurricane season is not until September 10th. So hurricanes are also the only storm that has an official name. I do not care what the Weather Channel does in the winter when they issue names for winter storms that are moving across the country. That is more of a marketing ploy. It is not an official thing. The National Weather Service doesn't endorse that, neither does any other organization. It is just really something that they use. However, hurricanes do have official names. The reason for that is just really for clarification. You can have two or more hurricanes or tropical systems going on at the same time. So if I say, hey, there's a storm at so-and-so degrees north and so-and-so degrees east, you're not going to know where that is. Or I say storm 1 or storm 2 versus storm 3 or storm 4, you're like, wait, which one was where type of a thing? But if you give them a name, then it becomes a little bit more easily recognizable. So the names actually come from the World Meteorological Organization, which is based in Austria. However, the very first person to ever name a storm was an Australian, and he named storms after politicians he did not like. So just take a moment and think about what would happen if we tried to do that today. It would probably be anarchy all the way around. So there is an actual official list, and you will see that in your PowerPoint. The names actually come from 3 different languages. And one of my dogs is growling. I apologize. I think he's about to start barking. We're just going to pause it here, and I'll come back with the names in just a second. Sorry.